We learn to live and live to learn in what has turned out to be an unprecedented situation, an unprecedented pandemic.
Yeah.
With history being written across the geography of Mother Earth, and a minor virus has created a major catastrophe, making each of us rethink, reboot, reset, reformat before we rewind and then rebuild a new future. A new future which will become the country and the world's new normal. The only thing constant, they say, in life is change. And the only thing certain, I assure you, in a pandemic particularly, is uncertainty. So the situation is ambiguous, apprehensive, and uncertain. We at edumate.tv are building up a repository of information, of views, analysis, opinions, to submit a white paper to the government of India. We talk in what we call our triple C, our candid COVID classroom, with people across the cross sections to try and figure out the new normal. This is yet another episode. It's episode number 52 of our new normal. It's brought to you by Education, an organization which looks at education ahead. And I must say, with great pride, that it's powered by one of India's better known universities situated in the north, IMS Ghaziabad. As always, we've got a distinguished set of luminaries to talk to us, to debate, to discuss, to innovate, to ideate, but at the end, to collaborate. Let's take a look at our guest list for today. Lots of stories, lots of discussions, lots of opinions on how to make India self-reliant. Then opinions are important, particularly from those who've been highly accomplished in every single thing that they've chosen to do. One such distinguished gentleman is Professor Alok Pandey, who heads IMS Ghaziabad. Over to you, Dr. Pandey, for your views on what is very critical to this environment, post-COVID, for education as well as the country at large.
Whatever has happened in last 3-4 months and whatever has happened last a decade or so, I think last 20 years or so, 2 decades, has been very exciting, but a lot needs to be done. If you look at it, we had discussed yesterday that the growth of entrepreneurship in India in terms of number of firms was very slow up to say 2006. It went up a little post 2006. And by 2016, the growth is around 12% per annum in terms of number of companies formed in India. We also now, although we are among the lowest in the world in terms of per 1,000 individuals, companies formed is 0.6, whereas it is 12 approximately in US and UK. We have done fair amount of work in bringing about a new Companies Act, changing the way companies are incorporated. We've got a new Ministry of Corporate Affairs which took over from Department of Company Affairs in 2010-11. And we've done a fair amount of work by creating right infrastructure for managing and regulating companies. Now is the time that we look back and see why a country which basically revered entrepreneurs has been slow in terms of promoting entrepreneurship. And the answer lies in right educational practices. So now is the time to start talking about big companies. And we should talk about big companies would actually mean manufacturing companies. You cannot have service companies in a big, they cannot be too big. So why? Because I told you that as the work from home happened, the first companies to vacate real estate spaces were the service companies. Remember, it's very difficult for a manufacturing company to vacate a real estate. And what manufacturing companies do, they give you a long-term perspective for the economy. So as I told, as the data suggests, in 2018, we created around 1,25,000 new companies. But 85,000 of them were service companies, which are basically small companies, which would normally have people 5, 10, 15, 20. Very few companies can go up to the level of Infosys or Wipro. So now is the time for our education system to gear up, prepare engineers for the manufacturing sector, for the policymakers to gear up, to create right environment and create ease of doing business across country so that manufacturing flourishes in this country. That is the only way we can counter our biggest competitor, not competitor, the biggest economic powerhouse of the world, China, which is now the factory to the world. Let's take a vow. In next 10 years, India will become factory to the world. And that will happen if our youngsters start thinking in that direction, and they start thinking in terms of working for factories rather than preparing merely for civil services examination and working like a clerk throughout their life, hankering for power, politicking for nothing, and only looking at their pension funds, provident fund accounts, and the savings and the number of houses they've built. Countries are built on people who work for the nation, who are conscientious, who work for building a nation. Now is the time for the education system to gear up to create nation builders.
In comparison to going directly into entrepreneurship, what is an MBA as a career option post-pandemic?
Sir, I have a question that how to keep yourself updated with the ongoing change in the working environment.
Let me tell you, the conventional education up to graduation level in India is a 5-question education. If you give an exam, you don't give an exam, there'll be no change in your quality. You basically have been taught to work for only exams. You study only when you give an exam. You buy a copy called a guidebook from some shop. You read those and you give an exam. You got 12 questions, 5 come up, and if you prepare 5 only, you'll be great enough. So this is a rote learning. You do not inculcate critical thinking. I believe over a period of time, we should inculcate critical thinking at the graduate level students also. So, business schools tell you, and they also bring you close to entrepreneurs. We've got 600 plus students who already become CEOs and MDs, for instance, since 1990. Not just my institute. There are several institutions which would help you, and students to choose nowadays due to Corona, institutions probably nearby are best for you. Institutions who have a facility to help you, institutions which you can afford. Look at the infrastructure. We've got 50 full-time faculty, and look at all the parameters. But what I'm saying is, conventional education up to graduation is slightly difficult in terms of, it basically pushes you into rote learning, does not promote critical thinking, which is very important as an entrepreneur. The other 2 questions, declining job market. There is no decline in the job market. Job market is changing. It is requiring a different skill set. For example, we are talking about big data analytics. We have a new program on that with us. We are talking about now infuse our MCA faculty, Dean Academics, Professor Sachin Malhotra is in charge of it. He basically is now dabbling into something called big data analytics, which is the big which creates futuristic jobs for Industry 4.0, right? The second one is, the other question was that how should you keep yourself updated? Remember, the only way to keep yourself updated is to keep your eyes open and your minds open, and realize that learning should happen till you are alive. Remember, the only opposite of birth is death, and the only certain thing after birth is death. In between, you have something called life, and being alive at every moment is an important idea. And how do you stay alive? By learning continuously. Now machines also learn, and I am a part of exchange system, and I know 10 to power 9 orders being punched at National Stock Exchange. Let me tell you, MCX Mumbai is 84 lakh crore exchange, which manages all commodities in the country. It's got 94% market share. It runs on a fantastic software base. Machines learn, people trade through machines, artificial intelligence is in. So the only 2 people now are learning are machines, like computers and human beings. If you don't learn, you are neither machine nor a human being. So you are a piece of furniture. So please keep learning. For that, keep healthy.
To make the country Atma Nirbhar, we all need to be Atma Nirbhar first. There is a concept in economics, we call it disguised unemployment, which basically says that we all are keeping doing, but at the end of the day, nothing come out. We all seems to be working. Now, my point is that instead of doing, we should all contribute. We should all contribute. If you look at the third pillar of this Atma Nirbhar Bharat campaign started by Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi, is the system. System does not comprises of people from Mars. System comprises people like us, the parents, the students, the government, the society at large. Now, what we have to do, we have to change our mindset. mindset from a conventional teaching learning process to a kind of a different set, like from a conventional manufacturing system to digital India. Let me tell you, the jobs are not shrinking. Professor Pandey has aptly highlighted, the jobs are not shrinking. It is shifting from one sector to another sector. It is shifting from a conventional sector to a sector like digital India, we call it Industry 4.0. So my dear students, let me tell you now how to update yourself. Now this is the best time for you. This is blessings in disguise for you. Everything at your fingertips now. Sitting at home, you can approach to any universities across the world, any big sorts across the globe. Now the knowledge is at your doorstep. Now it is up to you how you take the advantages of this knowledge is being there at your doorstep. My dear students, like Professor Pandey said, that you have to utilize your time by reading, and by taking advantages of the knowledge which is flowing across in front of you.
Let's not only focus on what is current requirement. So aptly said that, people are, the firms are working towards making masks, making all sort of requirements which are current requirements. Please don't get into that masses. Think out of the box. What will be the requirement after once the COVID is out? These products will become stale. So then you'll again be stuck. So let's think of something which will be, it could be, again, as I say always, look into something which you find today which is not working, but post-COVID will be more working.
So first, let me address the question. As an entrepreneur, you require to have a good, decent sense of how business works. What you can sell, what is required by the market, how you can earn your profits. You need to have a very basic fundamental understanding of it. One way of doing it is, of course, dirtying your hands, getting into a business directly and learning on the job. That is one way of doing it. But once you have gone through a program which is well structured as a PGDM program from, let's say, IMS Ghaziabad or any reputed B school, then you have a heads up over other people who are trying to get into an entrepreneurship mode, because you have been walked through all the functional knowledge, domain knowledge that you require to run a business successfully. That is the first advantage. So you enter into entrepreneurship with a lot of confidence, a lot of case studies that you have exposed yourself to how people have built up successful businesses. So you will have a clear-cut edge over people who could not have this experience. That is point number one. Point number two, once you have entered into a reputed B schools like IMS Ghaziabad, or let's say I am Ahmedabad or I am Lucknow, places like these, you build a network of peers. That network is not just limited to your colleagues in the classroom. That also includes your juniors. That includes your teachers who will act as consultants to you once you are facing problems. That also includes a large number of alumni when you are entering into a B school with a legacy. B school which has a large history. They have a large pool of successful alumni who can be of good use to you once you are stuck somewhere.
Should entrepreneurship be included as a compulsory subject along with business studies at senior secondary level?
My question is, won't Atmanirbhar have negative impact on India's global relationship?
Is it worthwhile to pursue MBA or any other master's degree in this or the upcoming year, as almost all the industries are facing slowdown and the companies are not hiring the way they used to?
Entrepreneurship is not something which is learned in schools. But still, in other countries, the education system is such that students are divided into different categories like Singapore and Germany. So they decide that this person is good for a particular technical trade, and this person has a higher scholastic ability. He'll read, write, and do other things. And this person is good. It's got, if your intelligence is only measured in terms of how you write and how you speak, the world would be a very, very sad place. It's also about how you dance. It's also about your intelligence, where your psychomotor abilities are tested. So it's not wrong to pick up a trade like a technical trade. It's not wrong to pick up anything else apart from studying. So I'm not saying that you cannot become an entrepreneur by studying. In fact, some of the biggest entrepreneurs in the world are college dropouts. So you don't study entrepreneurship. That is one part of it. you need to be careful that our system should be such that in the school level itself, we try to segregate students who can be on their own. Remember, there's a book, wonderful book, why A grade student work for C grade students and B grade students work for government.
Vocal for local is essentially a call to tap into our vast MSME network. We have MSMEs that employ over 1100 lakh people across the country. So I feel, this call is essentially to, tap into MSMEs, and they are in a very good position to dominate our manufacturing and production activities. Now that's provided, like Professor Pandey said, that this is a collaborative effort. They require some short-term and long-term support. Short-term to get out of, this COVID scenario and the recession that will follow. They require, things like wage subsidy support, credit support to, give them the finances to pay their workers, as well as invest in, procuring raw materials and other technology.
Whenever we talk about entrepreneurship means it's a struggle, it's a hardship, it's a dedication, it's a commitment, right? If you talk about a subject matter of entrepreneurship, the basic principle says you have to take the risk. You should be well versed with taking the risk. Do you think that the owner of Cafe Coffee Day, Mr. Siddharth, who committed suicide last year, he was not aware of taking risk? It is not the case. And keeping all these points aside, let me tell you, at IMS Ghaziabad, we do encourage entrepreneurship. We do have a subject on entrepreneurship, and also we do have a society called the Entrepreneurial Student Society.
And nobody knows when this COVID is going to get over, when the world will recover from this COVID scenario. So as our director sir says, learn to live with COVID. So that is one thing, right? And we are not going to wait for 2 years, and then we'll start afresh. So we need to learn to live with it. Second aspect of the question is unemployment and job market. As Director Sir and Tapanji has already taken their views, you've taken their views. I'll take it forward. Let me put across some points. I had a discussion with all my students during their final year dissertations, and let me give you some scenarios during the talk which I got from them. Almost is the wrong word. All of our students, I'm talking about IT area, right? All of our students, they are working in organizations, they are getting paid. None of them has been, asked to leave.
Okay, so Arushi wants to know, the HRD ministry has made it mandatory for colleges and universities to conduct final semester exams by the end of September. In such a short period of time, how do you think students will acquire the skills relating to their respective subject without practical experience of learning? Do you think there will be any skill development in students through these exams who wish to go for jobs or higher education where they need to prove themselves? And Akash wants to know, since most of the foreign universities, especially in US, have decided to shift learning online, is it viable to go ahead and take admissions in those colleges? Cons arising out of virtual learning and the absence of physical presence in the premise. And Arushi wants to know, what are the digital skills that we should consider learning which are deemed to be almost a necessity in the post-pandemic world?
हमारा ये था कि अब क्या करें, इसमें प्रॉब्लम कोविड की प्रॉब्लम है, तो हमने अपना कोर्स भी कंप्लीट करवाया है, लेकिन समस्या तो है। अब समस्या का सॉल्यूशन भी तो ढूंढना होगा, सॉल्यूशन हमारे अंदर से ही आएगा, ठीक है। तो इस तरह से हम अपने एक रास्ता हो सकता है। हाँ, बच्चों के सवाल जायज़ है कि हम कैसे उसको स्किल करें या इस तरह से हम प्रैक्टिकल, तो ये तो संभव तो नहीं है, लेकिन हमें अपनी गाइडलाइन भी फॉलो करनी होगी, ठीक है। तो इस तरह से हम इसको देख सकते हैं। मतलब आगे बढ़ने के लिए हमें कोई तो फॉरवर्ड लुकिंग सोचना ही होगा। कहने का मतलब मनरेगा आत्मनिर्भरता नहीं हो सकती, हमें स्किल्स डेवलप करने होंगे और लॉन्ग टर्म, जैसे आलोक पांडे सर ने कहा कि हमें ये कोई एक दिन का या 10 दिन का या 1 साल का प्रोग्राम नहीं हो सकता, और इसको हमें अपने जीवन में अपनाना होगा, तब जाके हम आत्मनिर्भरता की ओर देख सकते हैं। और इसके लिए करना क्या हो सकता है, जितने भी बिग इन्वेस्टर्स है इंडिया के, वो सारे हमें यहाँ इन्वेस्ट करे, यहाँ टेक्नोलॉजी लाए और लोगों को एकदम उसके फेमिलियर बनाए, तब जाके ये हमारा सपना पूरा हो सकता है।
Eventually, at the end of the dawn of this pandemic, once it ends, we will have to have a blend of all these 2-3 things, which is what we call the online thing, which is going on. Okay, the classroom teaching is going to be there. Okay, and the best of the best universities would certainly going to invite all the students to be there in the university and be a part and parcel of the classroom education system. So we cannot say that during this pandemic or even after this, it's advisable to go only for online courses. So now coming to a point, which is what is my passion, and which is what we have been doing under this Indian Academy of Entrepreneurship. That is, we are working, our vision is to nurture innovation and entrepreneurship, and our mission is clear-cut as to enable people resources across the globe through entrepreneurship and employability for dignified livelihood based on collaborative innovation and social technology to serve and save humanity across the world without prejudice. This is what we are doing.
But then there have been a few questions that I noticed about Atmanirbharta, which I would like to bring another perspective on. One was, should we actually see it as boycotting of international imports? We should not see Atmanirbharta as anything to do with reducing of imports, but the building of self-reliance. Whenever we build a business in India, it creates self-reliance, which is not necessarily at the cost of something imported. India is a huge growing market. There are certain resources, there are certain natural resources as well as semi-finished raw material, which is always required from overseas, which is not our core competence, and we need to keep importing them. And that is why Atmanirbharta in no way would affect our international trade. However, we also need to see Atmanirbharta from the context of resources. One important resource that would be required is capital. And for us to become truly Atmanirbhar, we would need to tap into both sources of capital. One is internal and second is external. So we want global investors to invest in India, to build our ability of becoming Atmanirbhar. And secondly, we need to harness the domestic Indian savings to build capital for Atmanirbharta.
I think this is an entire misnomer when one believes that self-reliance means we shut ourselves to the outside world. It's certainly not the case. Let's not forget, this country has tried half-heartedly to become self-reliant for the last 70 years and period. All right? Whereas several other countries across the world have succeeded and succeeded well. And it's countries which are far smaller the size of India. So, the moment we open our minds to learn from them, the better off we are. Let's not only look at imports and capital, we need to gain knowledge from them. We need to gain experience from them. And we need to pay for that fee as well. But create it within our own systems. And don't forget that India has to boost its exports, right? One way of self-reliance is exports. And if you want to export to another country, be prepared to take something from them. It has to be a give and take situation. Anushka has scored 100 out of 100 in mathematics. Now, that's not important. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people can do that. But she proved that she could do this.
There was no as such trick. The simple thing was that I regularly gave time to mathematics because I wanted to, excel in it, and I love that subject. So I regularly practiced mathematics, and over the course of 2 months, I solved some 50 question papers, and that really helped at the end. So that there was just this trick of practicing and giving time to it. Good thing is that I had no pressure from my parents. It was something that I did on my accord. I wanted to do it. So there was no external pressure. I want to do something that, as my father always says, build a nation and something that contributes to the development of the country.
Let's stay connected. We'll come back to you in just a moment for closing comments. We're already almost towards the end of the show. We will take a quick break and come back. Stay with us. It's going to be very exciting. Closing comments are always good. Closing comments with an open mind in just a moment. Welcome back. Our talent is on. I believe Suraj has just about managed to connect with us.
How world will overcome from this pandemic, and what about people who work daily, earn daily wages and eat daily? And the next question is, what about final year students' career? I decided after my last year exams whether I'll take admission in MCOM, but this pandemic situation, the uncertainty is giving me headache. How to deal with that? And what is more beneficial in such economic downfall, entrepreneurship or jobs?
We need to be a little more scientific. We need to understand that uncertainties are a part of life. If you look at it, tuberculosis bacteria lives in your body. It attacks only when your immunity is poor. If you look around, you can't see, apply a microscope, you've got thousands of bacteria and viruses and protozoans and so on, microorganisms, which are around you. COVID is an overhyped, over-glamorized disease. I won't say that in Bombay there's no trouble and you say, why, how is he saying this? But let me tell you, this disease can be easily tackled by keeping your hands clean, not touching your mouth, ensuring that you stay away from people who are unwell, ensuring that how you keep your immunity alive by eating seasonal fruits, a balanced diet, and a regular exercise. In human race especially, our future is dependent upon actions of large number of people around us. You are in Mumbai, and in Mumbai there's a stock market. How does it function? How does a stock move up or down? It is dependent upon how people perceive a particular stock. So, how societies actually function and how future is shaped up, it is due to actions of large number of people. So in developed countries where parliamentarians have been very intelligent, very diligent, ethical, they created right policies and infrastructure, they became developed countries.
You're now a student, right? So I feel at this particular time, you should just focus on upgrading your skills and try to get as much as knowledge as possible. There are so many free courses available on internet. Try to attain those courses. There is I had seen a video on YouTube regarding digital marketing. So you can enroll yourselves into those courses. First, get the skills. Even if you want to become an entrepreneur, then it doesn't mean that you don't require any skills, because entrepreneur itself require a lot of skills, knowledge, right? So first develop your skill, and both the paths will be open for you, whether it is job or whether it is a business. See, for business, first of all, you need to have knowledge in that particular field. For example, I'm a teacher, right? So what kind of business I can think of? I can think of opening a coaching institute, or I can think of anything related to education, because I have knowledge related to education, right? I cannot just go and open up a mobile shop for myself to do a business, because I don't have any knowledge in that particular field. So my suggestion is that if you are thinking of doing some business, first gain the knowledge related to that particular business, and then only you go ahead.
But quality you need to develop your Atma Nirbhar, in the sense what the government policy, what the government benefits, what the government gives you the infrastructure, and what all things are there need to be studied well. And I certainly do agree with the Pandey sir earlier told us that reading only. Reading is the first primary necessary, that to acquire knowledge, background knowledge of doing any of the business. Now, many of the earlier we had the red tapeism earlier, before post-independence or before this last century also. Now we have a red carpet. Many of the policies are becoming easier and easier. Many of the states are also encouraging a business, also entrepreneurship also.
I think my point of I should say suggestion or a comment would be that we need analysis at two ends. One, as a student or as an individual, we have to do the SWOT analysis. Right, SWOT analysis, that means what am I capable of? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? Where can I find opportunities? And what could be the probable threats for me? Along with that, I think we need to do another analysis, that is feasibility analysis and sustainability analysis. Right, when you talk about feasibility analysis, like I said earlier, I am proposing something which is right now may be required but may not be required in future. So is it economically viable? Is it technically viable? Am I having that kind of an infrastructural support? So with my personal skill set, whatever I'm trying to propose.
There are two things. One, either you do relevant. If you do things which is not relevant, make it relevant. The third point is be responsible. Be responsible for yourself. Nobody is going to make you responsible, my dear friends. Let me tell you myself, nobody has made me responsible. I believe in myself. I come from a place, I come from a village. I usually talk to my colleagues that my village, which is very, very remote, where I lived my life with no electricity, no schools in my village, no road to my village, to go for till my 10th standard. I went 10 kilometers out from my village to study.
So I think it is all about one's interest and risk-taking ability. But I'd like to add on it, I'd like to urge all the participants to be smart, have specific objectives, measurable objectives.
I think my closing remarks would be, as somebody has pointed out very rightly, I think it was Dr. Mumtaz from Rizvi College, and I really appreciate that just as everybody is not cut out for a particular role, similarly, everybody is not cut out for an entrepreneurship role also. So just because entrepreneurship is being encouraged, you should not be thinking that it's my turn now to try entrepreneurship. You should identify yourself, know yourself. That's very important. Somebody said, know thyself. That remains true. So know yourself. And if you think that you have it in you, if you think that you have something, you have the passion, you have the risk-taking ability, you can make a mark, then go for it.
The quality of human resources which is required into the entrepreneurial world, either into the entrepreneurial world or into the employability world, you need to be extremely competent. And there are only 4 key words, which is what we have coined and which is around which we work. You have to be extremely agile, A for agility, B for benevolence, C for courage, and D for discipline. And
Brilliant.
this is what all these people we have been talking about. You need to have all these four traits with yourself to be a successful entrepreneur or to be an excellent employable resource.
I would say that there could be no better time than now to get into entrepreneurship. With all due respect to all the courses being there, there's no better course than being an entrepreneur. Having done more than 12 businesses, I can tell you there could be no better thing to learn than doing a business yourself. You could do it along with your studies, and there is no better time than now because there are plenty of opportunities afloat.
We in India have much higher immunity, higher recovery rate, lowest death rate. So if you want to increase the death rate, if you want to go to a country with very high death rates, I would not recommend. Almost every country, people are dying more because of one reason or the other. Stay in India, stay safe. There are not going to be any flights, and there's going to be a second wave probably in Western countries, as Britain estimates, other countries estimates. It's all about your level of competence, as everybody said. It's about compassion, somebody said. It's about courage, and it's about commitment. So if you look at, leadership revolves around these basic tenets of life, and entrepreneurship is actually another word for leadership. When I work in an organization, I don't really look at my management every time to seek their answer as to what I wish to get done or not done. I always say, let me do this, else I'm going. So fact is that, when you start working in organizations, you have to be, today's India belongs to people who are going to be leaders for tomorrow.
I would say, before starting on the journey of entrepreneurship, ask yourself the right question. And if you're prepared to do that, it's only then that you step into an entrepreneur's shoes. It's not easy. It's not difficult either. It's just a mindset. And as I said even yesterday, I'll repeat that. The only R required to be reliant is a set of 3 R's. One is to be relevant. You have to continue to be relevant in society. If you're not relevant, you cannot be an entrepreneur. The second is to be responsive. You've got to continue to understand what are the changes that are happening around you to be able to continue being relevant. Right? You've got to be responsible. The third thing is third R, the most critical one, which you said even a little while earlier, I think by Professor Naik, is responsible. You've got to take onus and responsibility for your actions. Thank you, IMS, for your support. Thank you for all our prestigious guests for coming and sharing their opinion for us. And we always say, in the field of education, right, to educate better, you'd better educate.